Hi and welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to welcome Anna McAfee today, who has basically started a global revolution called LinkedIn Local. So we're very, very lucky to have her today. Anna is a local, essentially, Aussie mum, and she's created a movement that is now gone viral, essentially. So we really wanted to talk to Anna about the global community that she's created. So Anna, can I ask you my first question? What drew you to use the technology to bring together a crowd of people? What was it that inspired you?
Look, I think I have always been passionate about LinkedIn as a platform, and I'm also a big believer in face-to-face connection. So there were a lot of people I was meeting and talking to online that I hadn't met offline. And we had fairly low engagement in Coffs Harbour where I live on LinkedIn, and a few of us started chatting actually in the news feed about how low the numbers were, and someone suggested, well, why, if they're so low, why don't we just get together? So it was a simple, oh well, what a great idea, why don't we all just arrange a time and place to come together and meet for coffee? We were online connections, simply just wanting to connect offline. So I put it up in the news feed with a hashtag, and that was picked up by a few others around the world who held events, and we put our heads together and decided that based on the response we were getting, we should develop a bit of a formula for what we were doing and try and help others do it. And I think to date we're in about 87 countries, and about I need to get the actual city number, but it's over 1,000 cities and towns that we've had events in.
And why do you think it's grown so fast? What is it that's attracted people to this connection?
Look, I think it's so easy to connect with people online. I mean, we can send a connection request, and whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook, you can send a message or a connection request to someone on the other side of the world and connect with them. But do you truly connect with them? No, you don't. And I think the global state of where we are with freelancing, people working from home, you know, a lot of remote workforces, and a lot of people, I think, as they tend to not live where they grew up anymore, so they don't have a social network around them that is supportive as if they were perhaps, you know, even 10, 15 years ago. I think the way society is built and the way we work is extremely different in just that short space of time. So I think there has been a growing and glowing response to LinkedIn Local because people just want to connect face to face. And our core values are very much that these are pitch-free, not-for-profit events. And I think that's, again, from a networking perspective, that is unusual because people don't want to come out for the primary purpose of being sold to. We're all a little over that. We really just want to come and connect with other humans and have a better sense of belonging with those around us. And that's what struck the chord.
Do you think that's in response to this disconnect and the complete lack of engagement that people are getting? As you say, you know, we can connect quite quickly with a fingertip click on our computer, but we're just missing that social connection.
I think so. And we're also so transient. I mean, I've had a lot of people, even at my event in Coffs Harbour, that have just moved to the area who really just want to meet new people. I mean, how do you do that in a new city? It's usually through work. Well, what happens if you freelance? It's very hard to actually find groups of people whom you can connect with, who you have something in common with. And I think with LinkedIn Local, it's obviously tends to be more professional based, even though our events aren't necessarily with professional topics, but it tends to have that, I suppose, clientele at them. And that's what draws people to it. There's an openness, there's an inclusiveness to them, and that's what people need to see, rather than, I guess, paying or having events for the primary purposes of making money, because they don't tend to be about the people that come. They tend to be more about the organisers.
And when you say you're driving a common purpose and there's some social impact that's derived from the LinkedIn Local meetups, can you give examples of what's actually going on at the LinkedIn Local meetings?
So it's usually up to the individual hosts and the individual cities what kind of topics they cover. But primarily, first of all, Our events are not for profit. So if there's a fee, there's usually a charity partnership with that, or the costs are simply covered. So it does keep the costs extremely low. We also have the value that they are non-selling events. So they're not about trying, the hosts or even the speakers trying to sell their books or get people to sign up to mailing lists. It's simply about bringing people together for a meaningful interaction. So in some smaller cities with smaller events, that can simply be just a social type event. In a lot of other cities, particularly the larger cities, we've had panels, and it's the panels that I think have, or even just 1 to 2 speakers who have brought some really interesting topics. So we've had a lot of topics around mental health in the workplace, around, been a lot of events to do with, I was talking to somebody last night all about events about body language, about overcoming burnout or how to get more work-life balance. There's been some wellness related type events. There's been topics, of course, around LinkedIn stuff themselves, LinkedIn tips, personal branding, that type of thing. But things like communication, things like how humans connect, understanding the psychology behind that. They've had some very interesting discussions all around some very interesting topics that people can really bring to the table. And I think that's why people are drawn to it, because it has something that is it's a very sociable type event, but there is a talking point or a facilitation that is unusual and that is interesting, and that people can I think really get behind and start some meaningful discussions, as opposed to the typical pitch free events where people are simply just trying to say what they do or what they need from people that are there.
And excuse me, who decides who the speakers are? Who actually pulls together the meetup? Who are the crowd of many that you've...
So they are very dedicated LinkedIn users. They're simply people who typically are quite drawn to that authenticity. They want to be a part of something bigger, and they want to, I suppose, have their own sense of belonging within our online host community, which has been wonderful to see. But they tend to be, I guess, community drivers, people, again, who want to have that face-to-face connection, that want to bring people together. And so it's usually those people that come from the LinkedIn community to us via our website, and we have an onboarding process that helps them out and helps them get started with with a lot of stuff that will obviously help them do events. And then it's up to them really. Often I say to people, draw within your own network speakers that are going to have interesting discussions. It's hard to think of a topic without a speaker in mind.
Yeah.
And often, typically they will start with something like LinkedIn or personal branding for a first event or a second event, and then topics from that point on can get decided from within their own events. I know for my events, people within the community who regularly come to events have suggested what they would like to hear, so that's the kind of events that we've done.
And so with the broader community, what does it take from your time to coordinate all of this?
So it does take a bit of time, particularly as a mum. You don't actually have a lot, but we have a host community that we run, that we help ask the questions. There's the admin, I guess, behind call bookings and that kind of thing. We have automated as much as we possibly can. We run mentoring calls. So there are a lot of us that dedicate an hour a week to do that. So there's, I think, around 10 of us that dedicate an hour a week to mentoring new hosts. And so there's, I guess, I mean, it's typically as a host community, it's just like running a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group. You need to keep people engaged. You need to obviously share those updates within the communities and within the mailing list as well. So, I mean, a good few hours a week, and there's always lots of questions, but it's something to me personally that has enormous value that I know gives a lot back to a lot of people. So I guess that's why myself and the other co-founders and the other mentors are willing to do it.
Yeah, I don't think you have social movements like this without somebody very passionate behind driving it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Now, one of the quotes that I read of yours I thought was really refreshing, especially given the protectionist landscape that we're tending to live in at the moment. And it was building a bigger table, not a taller fence. And I
Yeah.
just really loved that. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit further on that point?
Well, to me, the way I've always seen this movement is more and more people can be a part of this. We're not trying to monetize this. We're not trying to be exclusive with it. We want as many cities to be on board with it as we can. Within each city, we would like to go deeper. For example, London have some youth-related events. They have women-related events. They have mental health-related events. And so we can go deep into cities as well as wide. And I think the more people that we can impact by it, the better. I mean, we're certainly not trying to please everybody with these events. There's a lot of, I guess, traditional salespeople that these events don't necessarily suit, but particularly those that are used to the kind of pitching style of business. But it's those that do want that authentic connection, that do want to actually build a sustainable network, we're trying to, I suppose, build the table so that they can come to the table as well, and not have a society or events that build fences that are shutting people out. So we're very much trying to encourage people to come as they are, be themselves, and to share with the people that they meet at the events, and obviously build those relationships.
And so for people that are interested in setting up a LinkedIn local community or group, how do they go about doing that?
So we have a website which is LinkedIn local, with the I that's dropped, so we're not breaking any trademark rules from LinkedIn. So we're linkedinlocal.com. You can, if you Google LinkedIn local, you'll find it. I think it's the first result. But there we have the existing events. So anybody who's looking at hosting, I'd encourage them to first of all look for one in their area and go along to the event first to get a feel for the concept. We do really encourage collaboration within our community. So if there's one nearby, we'll probably encourage you to work with them or find a point of difference. And, you know, the youth-related events within universities are a really good example of, you know, having a good point of difference. So, but if there isn't one in your area and you are looking to do one, then just, you can apply via the website. There's a Become a Host page. You just fill in a quick form and then you'll get some information once you submit that.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's going to appeal to a certain type of person that's not into the salesy. They're looking at social impact, authenticity, networking within that context.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as I've always maintained, our events they aren't traditional networking events, because they are people that come from the LinkedIn community. And the LinkedIn community aren't just all salespeople. They are people who like that online conversation there. They are, you know, executive assistants or HR managers they're not business owners who are trying to pitch what they do. They're trying to just have those meaningful interactions offline that they get online. Because I think LinkedIn is a wonderful place for that human connection, with LinkedIn video and with, you know, a lot of the content on LinkedIn. For those that are doing it right and really sharing and giving back and really focusing on their online communities, it's that kind of content that's working well offline at these events. And so it isn't just salespeople who are coming to the event. So events that are really designed about what you do for a living aren't going to appeal to a group of LinkedIn users.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm just listening, thinking, you know, the parallels between I'm in the digital health space, and that's growing rapidly, but I think we can't deny the fact that people really love that face-to-face connection. And as strong and as effective as digital communities will be and continue to grow, there will always be this ongoing demand to connect and meet with people face-to-face and share that common purpose and the touch that can then be followed up online, I think, which is certainly what you've tapped into.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the health space, I know it's hard for everybody to get to a health professional. So if you do live remotely, then of course the digital is going to expand what is available to you and get you what you need. But I don't think that it can ever replace physically going and meeting, because I think we've learned as humans, we're probably, what are we around? For a lot of us, I think 10 years into a social media experiment. I mean, we're only 10 years old, but I think what we've learned is that building large numbers of followers and getting 100 likes on something doesn't actually bring us any joy or happiness. It's the relationships that we build. And yes, that can be done digitally. And because a lot of us live on the other side of the world to our family, we have to do it digitally. But you can't replace completely face-to-face connection.
Yeah, I really like that 10-year-old social experiment. It's a good way to put it into context, because that's pretty much exactly what we're seeing. And now the reaction to that is coming full circle back to the face-to-face connection.
Absolutely. The timing was quite, I think, fortuitous for LinkedIn Local, and I think that's why it took off. It wasn't something we planned as founders, but we were all and continue to be taken by surprise by the interest in it. But it is, again, I think we are all just in need of perhaps where we were 10 years ago, when we all decided we'd spend 10 minutes a day on Facebook as opposed to hours.
And the future for LinkedIn Local, where do you see it going?
Look, I think we want the table to be bigger, and obviously expand further, but also I think a deepen. It's great to have one event in a city. To me, the value is doing 10, 15 more. I've done 16 events in Coffs Harbour, and to me, it's that ongoing value that you get from it. So I think actually continuing the events with volunteer-run communities, it is hard to obviously keep that momentum going, because people's time is valuable, and so hosts will, of course, come and go. So it's having those ongoing groups that continue. We would really love to work with LinkedIn on this. We do have some ongoing discussions with them, but I guess they are a little slow. So
why do you think that is, given that this is probably the most effective marketing exercise that's going on within LinkedIn Local?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that their legal department are quite sure how to wrap their head around it. So, and we have remained very open about, like, for example, when I mentioned the web link, there is a URL rule on LinkedIn that you can't have LinkedIn in the URL. So we were very careful not to break that. You know, we've very much said this is why it's not for profit, and you know what we're doing. We've been very open about. So I think they're a tech company. This isn't part of their business model, and we're also doing it for free, I guess. So maybe if we said we wouldn't do it anymore, it would change. But I think we all see the value in what we're doing. But we are an independent community, and there are a lot of advantages to being independent, because we don't have any rules that they obviously give us, you know, in terms of trying to really push the LinkedIn product. A lot of these events don't push the LinkedIn product, and that in a lot of ways is a good thing. That's if it were simply just about getting more subscribers to LinkedIn Premium, I don't think the events would have anywhere near as much value as they do currently. So there are advantages of remaining independent. So we want to maintain that independence, but obviously perhaps with their blessing.
Yeah, no, I get that. Well, Anna, I don't know if I'd call it disruptive, but you've certainly created a movement, and it's very impressive. Well done.
Thank you.
Good on you for such a wonderful initiative and bringing so many people together. Obviously, there's a significant demand for it, which is why it's grown so rapidly. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you down the track.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.